Hey Dosers, Tracie here. Thanks so much for joining us on our series on the Hall of Faith. And I get the opportunity to talk about Sarah today. So I'm going to point you back to Genesis. I'd encourage you to go read the entire story because it's a crazy novel of sorts, but I'll give you a quick synopsis. So God comes to Sarah's husband Abraham and says, I want to make you a father of nations and Sarah the mother of nations, but I need you to pack everything up and I need you to go. And so they do that. They pack everything up. They're being obedient to what God calls them to do. And they hear that there's a famine where they're headed, so they make a detour in Egypt. And when they get there, Abraham realizes that his life could be in danger. So he convinces Sarah that it's a good idea to lie for him and say she's his sister instead. And so the Pharaoh finds that out, gets mad, sends them on their way, and off they go. And God comes back again and says, hey, I'm going to make you this covenant to be the father of nations. And I will bring you into this land and you will be fruitful and multiply. But as the years go on, nothing happens. And Sarah is looking at her time and realizing that she is past childbearing years. So much like we do, Sarah decided that God wasn't going to come through and that it just wasn't feasible. There was no way it was going to happen. So she takes things into her own hands. And she tells Abraham to take her maidservant Hagar, and he does, and she becomes with child. And then all of a sudden, Sarah changes her mind and gets fussy with Hagar, and Hagar is fighting back, and it just becomes a mess in the story. And she sends Hagar away. And then Sarah's still thinking, how are we going to do this? How is God going to come through with this? And God comes back. And when Sarah is 90 years old, she gives birth to Isaac. And there's so much we could say about this whole story, but there are a few little takeaways that I'd love for us to look at. And in the minutia of our lives, I think looking at Sarah's story can give us some real assurance of how we operate and that you can still be in the Hall of Faith in God's eyes. One is, if you're older and you're wondering what God is going to do with your life, trust me, Sarah's a great proof that he can use us in our latter days. And I believe that he wants to do this when we are obedient to him. And if we mess it up and we do some of the things and we take things into our own hands like Sarah did, God can still redeem those things and come back and still be trustworthy to the promise that he made if we have that heart of obedience. And then last, if we're in a season of waiting. We're all in a season of waiting at some time in our life, but some of us are waiting for some really big things, whether it's to have children or wayward children coming back home or jobs or healings or marriages or all of those pieces that in this life we will wait on. Looking in the mirror, the rearview mirror at Sarah's life, it shows us that God is trustworthy to his promises, and he, even in the waiting, he is at work and he will fulfill what he told us he would do. So I hope that brings us encouragement today that we can trust him. We can have that certain assurance that God is faithful. We'll see you next time.